for Carroll Speed Shop out of Oak Ridge, North Carolina, Brandon Pierce.
Rolling off tonight in the 17th position, his second start for this junior motorsports team. Behind the wheel, the number 8 Bass Pro Shop Chevrolet out of Mooresville, North Carolina. It is Caden Kwapel.
Starting in the 16th position at Fuquay Arena, North Carolina, one of the local hometown heroes, currently 4th in track championship points in the RLT Construction Talton Metal Products, number 50, Daniel Van Cannon.
Starting tonight on the inside of row number 8, a native of Raleigh, North Carolina, a former Cars Tour winner and many-time winner at this racetrack and a former series champion in the 08 DrivePerYour.com Ford out of Raleigh, North Carolina, Deke McCaskill.
Starting in the 14th spot out of Chesapeake, Virginia, 2nd in championship points, 2-time winner on the season. In the best repair company, Folsom Fence Supply, Lee Pulliam Performance 03, Brendan Butterbean Queen.
And rolling off tonight in 13th, yet another start for the Carroll Speed Shop behind the wheel of the High Rock Vodka Chevrolet in the number 57 out of Claremont, North Carolina, Landon Huffman.
Rolling off in the 12th position tonight for the second time at Ace, led the most laps last week to go along with his pole award earlier in the season. Driving the Sayville Millington Motorsports Leisure Time Rentals, number 15 out of Statesville, North Carolina, Ryan Millington.
And just outside the top 10 in the 11th spot, making his Z-Max Cars Tour late model stock debut in the number 55H Bogue Sound Distillery and Gregory Development Machine out of Holly Springs, North Carolina, the 55H of Holden Haddock.
Starting in the 10th position, making his 19th career start with the Tour, but first at Wake County. In the Velasta, per your tank lines in Race City Steel number 23 for Matt Piercy Racing. From Fulshire, Texas, Cade Brown.
And starting tonight in 9th, your pole sitter from 1 year ago, behind the wheel of the 1J Hartman Salad Dressing Chevrolet out of Goldsboro, North Carolina, it is Clay Jones.
Starting in the 8th position, pole winner at Hickory earlier this season, and tonight one of his mentors, Ron Hornaday, is in attendance. Driving the King Custom Panels Rent Source at CarQuest number 62 for Kevin Harvick Incorporated. From Supply, North Carolina, Landon Lewis.
It'll be a KHI row number 4 in the 7th position behind the wheel of the Mobile One Toyota out of Hickory, North Carolina. Fresh off a win at Ace, it is Brent Cruz.
Starting in the 6th position, 2019 Cars Tour Rookie of the Year, currently 4th in championship points. In the Convenience Tire and Auto, BDL Motorsports and Solid Rock Carriers number 81 out of Manassas, Virginia, Minnie Tyrell.
On the inside of row number 3, a winner at North Wilkesboro Speedway behind the wheel of the number 77 Bare Knuckles Fighting, an Everum machine for Chad Bryant Racing out of Grimsby, Ontario, Canada, Traden Lapsevich.
Starting in the 4th position, fresh off a very impressive runner-up finish in the ARCA Series last week at Springfield. Driving the JBL Mobile 1 lead pulling performance number 55 out of Fort Mill, South Carolina, Isabella Robusto.
Starting tonight in the 3rd position, the championship points leader behind the wheel, the number 22, Autos by Nelson, BTS, Blue Ridge Color, and Town Bank Toyota from Hampton, Virginia, Connor Hall.
To the front row, and the driver starting in 2nd spot tonight, 4-time winner in weekly competition and 2nd in points here at Wake County, making his Cars Tour late model stock debut in the race-ready mobile detailing, Linda Trevor Compass and Dylan Spain Motorsport 08 for his family-owned team, Raleigh native Carson Hayslip.
And starting tonight on the Thunder Road, Harley-Davidson pole with a time of 12.078 seconds. Behind the wheel, the 05 CR Phillips Electrical and Class Guy Chevrolet out of Richmond, Virginia, Mason Bailey. And that is your starting lineup for the Drive for Per Year 125 at Wake County Speedway. Eric, what a field full of so many stories, so many names that could potentially end up in Cookout Victory Lane at the end of the night.
And you see it right there on the front row. How about Mason Bailey, who seems to be soaking in this moment, knowing he is going to lead this field to the green flag just a short while from now, as we are less than 5 minutes away from the command to fire engines for the Drive for Per Year 125. Drivers are heading to their cars. They are going to get buckled in front of this capacity crowd at America's favorite bull ring. Only thing left to do will be fire the engines, and we're going to do that right when we come back on the other side of this break. You're watching the Z-Max Cars Tour, presented by Sound Gear on Flow.
Everyone knows that in stock car racing, every second matters, and you have to have the right fuel so that your car can run at maximum efficiency. It's the same way with our bodies. What we consume can make or break our health. So that's why I take Velasta, the most powerful natural antioxidant on the planet. It's like juicing 1,000 carrots, 1,000 tomatoes, and over 1,200 cups of blueberries per day. It helps give me the energy I need to get back to doing what I love. So take control of your health. Take Velasta.
Every weekend, it seems like we're at a racetrack somewhere. So we're living it, we're doing it. I think it helps us relate whenever they call, if they need more grip or they need more turn. We do it all the time. All of the fixtures we do, from our steering dyno to our rear end straightening jig, it's the same fixtures, same tools that we would build a rear end housing that's going to run a NASCAR race as we do a rack or a steering box to go on a street stop. We treat them all the same way because, I mean, they deserve the same quality. Everybody does.
It's time to double down. It's time to raise the stakes. And it is time to go all in with Kubota High Limit Racing. This is the High Limit Room. It's the home of 24 high rollers.
Welcome back to Wake County Speedway. Driver introductions are complete, and we are just about set for them to do all of the last-minute preparations. So strap in, get those belts tight, put on those Hans devices, put on the racing helmet, and get set to go for 125 laps here at Wake County Speedway. And so much for these drivers to have to look forward to, anticipate, and work on here for 125 laps. One being, I think many of them could use a couple lessons in trying to throw a Frisbee a little bit that we saw there. But aside from that, such a challenge that is ahead of them tonight. We know this is a challenging racetrack.
And atmosphere goes a long way in terms of how drivers think inside the cockpit of their race cars. And I want to mention something that, Blake, you just kind of whispered to me here. That was one of the most energetic driver intros that I've ever been a part of. These fans are on top of the action here as they're going to be all night long. The drivers could feel that, sense that, and it further exemplifies their desire to get to Cookout Victory Lane, especially when you look at how complex the storylines are sprinkled throughout the field. Our championship points combatants are littered throughout the entire 19-car field, and then we've got some drivers trying to play the role of the role of the spoiler, if you will, with several of their friends and family in attendance at a racetrack they may compete weekly at. It's just the perfect combination for what I think is going to be yet another race that makes the highlight reel at the end of the year in terms of how the rest of 2024 unfolds.
We'll see how it continues to play out. You could see Connor Hall, along with the rest of the field, making those last-minute preparations. Pretty much the only thing left is to try and get those gloves on before setting in for 125 laps around this racetrack. Now, one thing, Eric, with the mindset approaching this racetrack, we talk about 125 laps as the going length for pretty much every single racetrack that we visit. But especially here, you can't afford to waste a lot of time. As soon as you strap in, we get a couple of laps in. Again, you're turning laps at just about 12 seconds a clip. So 5 laps here goes by in just roughly over a minute. So got to figure it out quickly. You got to be ready as soon as Brendan Willard waves the green flag.
Last year, we saw a lot of teams caught off guard by how hot it was at the racetrack. Fortunately, here it's not as warm, but it's still quite warm for the race teams who've been out here all day long. We saw overheating be a big storyline. We'll see if that comes back this season as well, or if the teams are a little bit more prepared for that. We've never had a driver win from the pole. Twice we've had a driver win from inside the top 10, but never the top 5. And also, of course, last year, Carson Quapple came from hangout back all the way up to victory lane. We'll see if one driver can try to emulate that in 2024 as well. Let's get the engines fired, and we'll go trackside to Jesse Punch.
Here to give the commands, one of the West Regional representatives from Puryear, Mario, with the most famous words in motorsports.
Hello, how's it going, guys? Thank you for having me. Hello from Colorado. So far, it's a fun experience, and really pleased to be here. Thank you.
Ready to give the command?
Yeah. Ready? Drivers, start your engines!
Sound of the best late model stock car drivers roaring their cars to life here at Wake County Speedway. Last couple of folks making their way across the racetrack and even giving a point to, again, one of the local competitors here in Holden Haddock. So many names, Eric, that we can talk about here, and it seems to be the going theme every week that just about anybody can win a Z-Max Cars Tour race, but especially here at this track, it always seems like the hometown drivers are the favorites when we come here. Mason Bailey, Carson Hayslip, I even say Deke McCaskill, who's starting back in 15th, never somebody that you can write out when it comes to Wake County Speedway.
I remember the days where many fans would go to their local short track and maybe they would have a hero that could somehow break free of just the weekly grind that it is to compete at a racetrack on a weekly cadence and take a shot at something on a regional or national level. You don't see it as often anymore in terms of a grassroots effort with a family-owned team trying to get their hands on a chassis and maybe try to parlay that up into some national exposure. With the Z-Max Cars Tour, that's the exception. The good news is many racetracks that have a late model stock rule book, it's either right on or not that far off of what we have with the Tour, and that's why we see the front row that we do with Mason Bailey and Carson Hayslip, 2 frequent competitors at the Wake County Speedway, starting 1st and 2nd respectively.
And again, Mason Bailey, a 12-year-old chassis, and did not expect to be fast in qualifying. I think he's pretty fast tonight. We'll see how that race pace holds up, as well as somebody who's been fast in just about every race we've gone to. Connor Hall, your championship points leader, rolling off from 3rd. Isabella Robusto, somebody that could definitely not play spoiler tonight, but I think has an opportunity to go to Cookout Victory Lane for sure.
Trey Lapsevich got the 1 checked off in the win column just this past week by virtue of the appeals panel. Wants to get one on the racetrack. He'll round out the top 5 with Minnie Tyrell, 4th in points and super consistent the last few races.
And how about Brent Cruz? He was pretty much in this exact position nearly 6 nights ago and managed to go to Cookout Victory Lane. Can he kind of get his way back into the championship fight. And Landon Lewis, we talk about owner's points here. The 62 car, it's had a lot of different drivers behind the wheel, but very much in the conversation when it comes to the owner's championship here in 2024.
The points leader in weekly competition, 4-time winner, 2-time defending consecutive champion, Clay Jones, representing this racetrack as well, alongside of Cars Tour rookie and Cade Brown at a full share Texas, your top 10.
Looking back at row number 6, you see Holden Haddock there. Again, one of those local heroes that was getting a little bit of an extra fist bump or so as he was climbing behind the wheel of his race car, as well as Ryan Millington, who arguably the last 3 weeks, he has been the fastest car perhaps that we've seen on the tour.
Row 7, you're going to find Landon Huffman back after a strong run at Wilkesboro, and Brendan Queen, don't fret, 14th on the starting grid. We've seen Carson Quapple come from further back to go to victory lane. Deke McCaskill and Daniel Van Cannon in row number 8. As we cycle through the rest of our starters here for the Drive for Per Year 125 with Caden Quapple and Brandon Pierce taking you through row number 9. And the last car on the grid is going to be that of Buddy Isles Jr. in the Flying 11 Per Year Tank Lines VA.
And again, I think a lot of drivers back here, that being Quapple, remember his brother went to victory lane here behind the wheel of Junior Motorsports number 8 a year ago. And then Buddy Isles Jr., we were watching those highlights earlier with this field, and he was running up in the top 5 before encountering an incident. But for more down from pit road, let's take it down to Jesse Punch.
Guys, Carson Hayslip starting on the front row in that 08. Incredibly impressive already today, but I talked to him about making his Cars Tour debut, and he said, honestly, I'm a little nervous. This is the most cars I've raced against here, at least in this division of racing. But the good news is, I know this place like the back of my hand. So he may be new to this series, but Carson knows how to win here. And like I said, already an impressive showing today, starting on that front row.
And that's the going theme that we hear. Again, so many of these drivers, they're comfortable when they roll into the pit area, even with the fact that, yes, the tire compound may be a little bit different than what they're used to. That's kind of been the going theme throughout the year. But those nerves definitely get you when you have perhaps the biggest crowd that you've seen here at this racetrack in a long time. You have the level of competition that we all know in the ZMAX Cars Tour is so incredibly high. And knowing that you can make a real mark for yourself if you go to victory lane here. So I'm sure that all of that's playing for both Carson and Mason Bailey, who you could really see in some of our shots there. I think you made a great point. Soaking all of this in, really enjoying the fact that he's sitting on the Thunder Road Harley-Davidson pole, but not losing sight of the fact that you have 125 laps ahead of you where the real works begins.
Carson Hayslip, someone who has well documented his rookie campaign in late model stock cars. You can check it out on his YouTube channel and his vlog. He is going to have a clear view of track ahead of him. The hard part is he's going to be up on the outside, as just like that, we are a lap away from the green flag.
What a great view here as we can see our drone. I believe that's how we'll be choosing tonight for the choose cone. We'll be using a choose drone here at Wake County Speedway. But Jim Bushy will bring the HendrickCars.com pace car down to the safety of pit lane. Sit back and enjoy this one from Raleighwood on a Saturday night. We're racing at Wake County Speedway. Oh, and a stack up on the inside. Connor Hall has trouble getting through the gears. Somehow, everybody reacts to it. Lapsevich had to check up. It doesn't look like he has too much damage, but your championship points leader, a little slow getting through the gears, but that could have been a big disaster with how tight this racetrack is. Somehow, they keep it rolling.
We've seen that several times in 2024. The points leader is able to dodge a bullet and only lost 2 spots in the process. But one of the drivers chasing him in the championship, looking to the inside, that's Brent Cruz in the 29, trying to get by the points leader Hall, who's now stuck up top.
Again, that's stacked up the inside line. You can see Tyrell in the scoring pylon ahead of Connor Hall, so he gets benefited by that. You also have Lapsevich, who has found his way down to the inside, trying to get by Connor Hall. So Hall struggling through these opening couple of laps, and at this point, Eric, this is when it gets really difficult. Being on the high side here, you can see Connor Hall trying to get down, but Clay Jones, Holden Haddock, they're going to be tough to try and get by as they almost look 3 wide. Hall nearly into the fence, and Haddock with a late dive will shove Connor Hall out wide.
And behind him, Landon Lewis tucked in behind the 55. He's going to get around Connor Hall. We thought that Hall may have stopped the bleeding in 5th spot, but he falls way back now through the running order as Mason Bailey continues to lead the field.
All of that has allowed both Bailey and Hayslip to continue to pull away. Again, your top 4, top 5 really are on the same straightaway. Meanwhile, everybody else side by side. and pretty much running nose to tail. So exactly what you want to see if you're these drivers. Now, they may not be used to the fact that a shitty coolers competition caution may come out in about lap 45 should we continue to run under the green flag. But so far, smooth sailing for Bailey, smooth sailing for Carson Hayslip. It is Isabella Robusto. We mentioned with all of that happening on the inside road, she takes advantage. She's up in the third. And then how about Minnie Tyrell? Not out of the championship fight just yet, but needs to continue making up points. This is a great start for that number 81 car.
You see Brendan Queen trying to make up some ground. He is up into the 14th spot where he started as we flash back up to the front of the field. How about these two? Between them both, they have a combined total starts in the Tour prior to tonight at 5. Hayslip making his debut, Bailey making his 4th career start, and 3rd of 2024. Both of them, as Blake mentioned, trying to put themselves in a pretty big spotlight should they be able to remain up towards the head of the field, or maybe even go on to win the Drive for Curry Year 125. And Hayslip is starting to apply heavy pressure to Bailey off turn 2.
Again, love seeing these two drivers that know this racetrack really well. You can see the different lines that they're taking, especially Hayslip gets down a little bit lower. Both in the center are 1 and 2. You can see that white line. Left side tires are nearly on it. And then in 3 and 4, same thing. Mason Bailey just running a little bit higher. You can see Hayslip cuts down a little bit more through the center of the corner, trying to build a runoff. But you can see just a little bit of different philosophies here as Bailey, a little bit of a slide off the corner. You can see there has been...
got a car on the wall. That's Deke McCaskill, who has pounded the fence in turns 3 and 4. And at the same time, Trayton Lapsevich has come to a stop in turns 1 and 2. And judging by the tire mark that we could see behind Deke McCaskill's car, it looks as though he may have gone in quite straight in what has been a year to forget for the 2016 late model stock champion with the Tour. This has been pretty much his season for that of Deke McCaskill, one of the nicest guys you could find in the garage area. And the good news is he's dropped the window net to signal he's okay.
So Lapsevich getting a push. Again, you can see the mark that Deke McCaskill laid. You can see the tire marks leading up to it. Has all indications of a right front tire that would have gone flat. As Lapsevich continuing to get pushed, you can see the rear end damage for the number 77 bare knuckle fighting machine. Again, recently scored as officially the race winner at North Wilkesboro Speedway. Was battling up in the top 10. Again, was running in 6th. In 2 separate incidents. Again, McCaskill was kind of further back in the field at this point. But it has just been one of those years for Deke McCaskill, and you hate to see it again. Like you mentioned, just one of the nicest guys that you can find down in the pit area. And just something, again, out of his control, a flat right front. You can see the same for Trayton Lapsevich as he rolls to the attention of his crew.
Now, it should be noted, and we heard Mason Bailey allude to this earlier in his Thunder Road Harley-Davidson Polo Award interview, that there was some discussion potentially about some of the loads that are going to be carried on the right front of these race cars. And Cars Tour officials did offer up the opportunity for teams to add a spacer on that part of the car to provide some additional comfort and clearance from some of the suspension components that are up underneath the fender well. Not saying that that could be a root cause for either of these incidents, but nevertheless, it looks as though 2 cars have had problems with that right front. To Jesse Punch.
Hey guys, you were right about that. It is a confirmed flat right front. That team's got that car up on the jack right now. Going to get that changed and hopefully get that 77 of Trayton Lapsevich out of the racetrack as soon.
Thanks, Jack. Thanks, Jesse. It looks like, as we see Deke out of the car, they are putting that spacer inside on the hub of the right front of Trayton Lapsevich's car, as McCaskill probably cannot believe his luck so far this season. Started off the year with a podium finish at Southern National, but from that point forward, it was a testing crash at Hickory, mechanical problems galore, as well as a lot of wrong place, wrong time, and a lot of bad luck. And Wake County is not going to be any exception. Cleanup continues in turns 3 and 4. We'll step aside. We're under the first Shitty Coolers caution of the night here at Wake County.
See Dick McCaskill on hand as they have towed his Purrier Tank Lines machine back to the attention of his crew at their hauler just the center of pit road. As you can see the discussion going on. Another night, Eric, that just has not gone the way of Dick McCaskill. That has just been the way of his 2024 season as they assess the damage with, again, I would imagine hopes to compete in some of the many big marquee late model stock car races that will be happening throughout the fall, but this is certainly a setback for that as he took a step back after running full-time at the initial start of the year and was planning to run part-time, I imagine, here in Wake County, perhaps making a trip up to South Boston Speedway and trying to wrap out his 2024 season on a high note.
Before we go back underway, this is the first time at Wake County we've had the choose, and you can see Mason Bailey, of course, on the inside is the leader. Behind him, the driver who's been running second all race, Carson Hayslip. Isabella Robusto is going to be the brave soul and jump up to the outside of the front row.
Pair of Mobil 1 Toyotas on the outside row as Mason Bailey will bring us through the Death Wish Coffee restart zone, and Robusto, a great launch on the top side, will keep them side by side down into turn number 3, trying to hold the 05 at bay, but that inside line too strong for now. Robusto able to get down in front of Hayslip, so the gamble paid off as she's able to move up into the second spot.
That'd be a net gain of 1 spot for that of Robusto, who moves up in the runner-up spot. Now Brent Cruz kind of stuck up on the outside. Hayslip rubs the left rear a little bit of the 29 car off turn 4, trying to keep his car to the bottom of the driver who's trying to make up ground on the points in that of Cruz.
We were just talking about Minnie Tyrell making up some spots. How about Brent Cruz in the battle for the championship? Meanwhile, Connor Hall continued to slip from his initial starting spot inside of the top 5. He currently runs outside of the top 10 in the 11th position. So trying to hang on all he can, but right now Cruz cutting into that points deficit that he has to Connor Hall and looking to the inside of Hayslip to try to go up for 3rd.
A little bit of door banging there off of turn 4. Hayslip with a great drive off the corner to beat him to the line just by mere inches. Hayslip knows he's like a car that got kicked out of the Daytona draft right now. If he could stay locked up on that outside line and the bottom train keeps forming, he's going to lose a bunch of spots. Tyrell now in the 81 to the inside with Ryan Millington, who started back in 12th position, now up into the top 5 and looking for more.
Has all the indications of having a fast race car again. When we saw this number 15 in practice yesterday, again, they had a 5-hour open practice session. Millington laid down the fastest time of any team out here, and you have to imagine they have just nailed the package to finally bring through the summer months and into the fall to bring a fast Leisure Time Reynolds Chevrolet every single racetrack that they go to. It has been the case at many racetracks that he's been so experienced at Hickory and Ace Speedway. He may have the same tonight at Wake County at the Bull Ring. Further on back, Hayslip continuing to fall a couple of positions as he's stuck on the high side. Can he get down in front of the one at Clay Jones? No. This is where it's tough. Connor Hall was pretty much in the same position. You get kicked up to the high side, nobody's going to let you down, as Millington trying to get in front of Minnie Tyrell, and Tyrell's going to concede that spot. So Ryan Millington already up to 4th. How hard is it to pass here at Wake County? Don't tell the 15 car that.
How about for 2nd spot as Cruz lunges to the inside of Robusto for the runner-up position. Got the fender to the inside going into 3. Keeps it to the inside going into 1, but Robusto pulls him off the corner and protects the spot.
This is why it can be so tough here at Wake County Speedway, and Isabella doing a fantastic job holding that inside line at bay. Again, with how tight this racetrack is and the fact that there's an inside wall all the way around the inside of this racetrack, you got to have a lot of trust if you're running that 2nd lane to know that that car on the bottom is going to be where you think it is. Cruz with a little bit of a nudge to the back of Isabella Robusto off of 2. He's going to have her car clear off of turn 4. Robusto gets back into the 29. This will stay a side-by-side battle, but Cruz momentum off of 2 will keep the spot unless Robusto can get to the back of him. Doesn't look like that's going to be the case.
This is the kind of races that people come to see at America's favorite bull ring. A little bit of nudging, a little bit of rooting, a little bit of gouging. If and when necessary, Robusto not able to get back to 2nd, but Ryan Millington is now tucked up under the rear spoiler of the Lee Pulliam Performance 55, trying to get up to a podium spot. If he can pass Robusto, Millington, for the second time in 2024, led the most laps at Ace last week, but didn't have anything to show for it. Could tonight be the night after he started out in 12th spot, trying to be the second driver in Wake County history to start from outside the top 10 and go to Cookout victory lane. He sizes up Robusto off 4.
Side by side further on back, that's Minnie Tyrell and Landon Lewis that are going at it off of turn number 4. Lewis got to the bottom on Minnie Tyrell, who has been relatively patient here. And again, this is kind of what got Minnie Tyrell up to the podium at Ace Speedway a week ago. And Minnie Tyrell, I think, showing that he's willing to kind of save a little bit. And again, a lot of these cars, we talk about the fact that there's been some very physical racing in the ZMAX Cars Tour over the last couple of months. I think you'd have to imagine that you're wanting to save a little bit of the race car. These teams are having to repair a lot of these race cars. As there's a battle for the top spot, Cruz has already caught Mason Bailey roughly 35 laps into this one. Cruz trying to challenge for the top spot. Meanwhile, Robusto still fending off a challenge from Ryan Millington in the 15.
How could you not be more impressed with a young rookie with that of Brent Cruz, who started his career up through the karting ranks, moved his way on up to every opportunity he could find in a full-body stock car, got himself an ARCA Menard Series win 1 year ago, and decided to target the ZMAX Cars Tour for a rookie championship campaign in 2024 with Kevin Harvick Incorporated. He is a 3-time winner already on the season. That leads any other driver, and he's at a racetrack that he has never run a full-body stock car at before, and is hounding Mason Bailey for the top spot.
I think one thing about any driver that you look at is adaptability, and it's so impressive what Brent Cruz, along with many of the youngsters that we've seen come up in the ZMAX Cars Tour this year, how they've been able to adapt to running these race cars. You need a fast hot rod. We know that he has that with KHI, but he's got the talent behind the wheel to do it as well, as it looks like he has a nose to the inside of the 05. He washes up the racetrack, and with 84 laps to go now in Wake County Speedway, Brent Cruz has taken over the top spot. And again, we mentioned this battle for the championship. Every point matters, including the one he can get now for leading a lap, as well as leading the most laps if he can hang on through the rest of the night to try and break through and start to make that run for the championship. As we're seeing sparks flying, that's not unusual here at Wake County Speedway, but that seems to be a little more than what the 8 car is bargained for. That's not just low air pressures.
Seems to be coming from the left front, and he's got a problem. Caden Quapple keeps it off the wall, but will slide to a stop up in turns 3 and 4 to draw the second Shitty Coolers caution of the night. The wall at some point. I think he may have rubbed the Hoosier lettering off those right sides, more noticeably on the right rear. Whether or not that's kicked anything over on the left front, and that's immediately where his Junior Motorsports crew sends their attention to. Caden Quapple, this is his second consecutive start in this Junior Motorsports car that his brother Carson drove to not only victory lane several times, but a ZMAX Cars Tour Championship the last 2 seasons. Carson, who along with his NASCAR Xfinity Series obligations with Junior Motorsports last week, on top of some road racing efforts that he had up at Watkins Glen, New York over the course of this weekend, paved the way for that of Caden, our most recent ZMAX Cars Tour Pro Late Model champion in 2023, and our most recent Pro Late Model winner after he grabbed the win for the pros last week at Ace. Didn't have the best of qualifying efforts, but even getting some help from that of members of the Chad Bryant Racing stable to try to figure out how to get that car back out there.
All hands on deck, and again, a tough situation there for Caden Quapple, who didn't have the opportunity and wouldn't have with, again, how quickly traffic spreads out here at this racetrack. Again, I know the Cars Tour has been pretty strict on cars stopping on the racetrack to bring out a caution. The one thing here at this place, there's nowhere to get down. There's no hole in traffic. Once you run about 5 or 10 laps or so, there's no opportunity there. And with this being such a difficult racetrack to dive in off of turn 4, you're not going to see somebody running in the racing line, especially with the problem that Caden had with the left front dragging like that. To be able to turn down onto the pit lane and stop in front of everybody right in the racing line, that was going to be a tough situation for him. So I think smart there to stop and save that race car before perhaps tagging the outside retaining wall. You see the results of the choose, and it looks like Brent Cruz and Isabella Robusto, who made up some spots on the high side earlier, has elected to go back there.
I was going to say, Caden Quapple has not yet left the pits. He may not make this restart right now as we're coming to green.
Yeah, lights are off on the HendrickCars.com pace car. Jim Bushy will bring it down into the pits, and Brent Cruz brings the field into the Death Wish Coffee restart zone. 83 laps to go, and a pair of Mobil 1 Toyotas at the front of the field here at the ZMAX Cars Tour at Wake County Speedway. But Bailey almost leaning into the back of the number 29 as Cruz just clears up in front of Robusto. Landon Lewis gets down just behind Mason Bailey as well.
Bailey knows that Robusto was able to slot into second with that outside choice. Now Bailey gets sideways, up into the side of Robusto, and she keeps it off the wall. Look at Landon Lewis looking down to the inside as it nestles back down to too wide.
That's a tough situation. Bailey looked a little bit loose, and unfortunately when you do that, and that car on your outside pinching you down, not really a whole lot of space to go. Robusto leans into the back of Bailey once off the 4, again into turn 1. Up the road goes Mason Bailey, and Isabella Robusto tries to get by. This is kind of the textbook way to do it. If you're going to bump him out of the way, you need that car behind you to try and keep it a battle. But Mason Bailey hanging tough there on the top side as he gets pushed up the racetrack.
Bailey, who led the opening stands on this race, now goes way up the hill. Has to catch the car. He'll lose a spot to Millington, probably a spot to that of Tyrell, and maybe a spot to that of Brendan Queen, who has gotten himself up into the top 10 and looking for more in that 03 car.
We know Bailey has a fast race car, just cannot get back down to the bottom to do it. You can see him sliding off the corners as well. Butterbean, who I saw a couple of laps ago, was behind many of the cars that you see running. He was behind that of Trent Lapsevich and battling back kind of around where Caden Quapple was, has very quickly made up some spots on this restart. So Queen looks like he'll get a spot there. Into the top 10 goes the 03 car.
Mason Bailey, the 05, calls Richmond, Virginia home. He's a frequent competitor at Dominion Raceway, finished second in points there in 2021, won a race there last season, and has tried his hands at the Cars Tour several times already. And right now he's trying to keep that car up in the top 10 for what would be his second career Cars Tour top 10 here at Wake County, with Cruz right now on cruise control at the front of the field. Robusto is nestled in the second. KHI teammate Landon Lewis, your top 3.
Sorting out here at the front of the field, Cruz has a couple of car lengths over that of Isabella Robusto. Lewis was getting a little bit of a challenge from Ryan Millington off of turn 2 a couple of laps ago, but has since stretched out that advantage. Nose to tail it's been for the last handful of laps with these 3. Queen has caught them quickly. Mentioned Queen in the top 10. I didn't realize he was already up into the 6th position. It has come hot and heavy and quickly for Brendan Queen. He was on vacation this week, but he was ready to go when the green flag dropped today.
Butterbean's only prior Cars Tour start at this racetrack was last year. Started 4th, finished 4th. Unfortunately, he started 14th here tonight.